AirDrop, it honestly feels like magic. You just tap a button and boom, your photo is instantly on your friend's phone. But what if I told you that behind that magic, there's a security flaw that could be exposing your personal information to anyone nearby? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden dangers of AirDrop.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? You tap a photo, you pick your friend's face from the little circle, and poof, it's just on their device. It's so unbelievably convenient, and let's be honest, for most of us, that's all we ever think about. It just works.
But what's the actual tech, the wizardry that makes this all possible? And maybe more importantly, in making it so seamless, did Apple accidentally leave a door open for something a little more malicious?
So on the surface, it's basically a three-step dance. First, your devices use Bluetooth to kind of sniff each other out. Then they set up a direct, secure Wi-Fi connection to make sure you're both on the same page. And finally, the file gets sent over. Simple enough, right? Well, the engine making all this happen is a protocol called Apple Wireless Direct Link, or AWDL for short. The easiest way to think about it is like a private direct Wi-Fi network that your devices create on the fly, no router needed. It's the secret sauce behind stuff like AirDrop and AirPlay. And look, this isn't some niche piece of tech. We are talking about over 1.5 billion devices. iPhones, Macs, iPads, all walking around with this open interface, constantly ready to connect. That is a massive, massive ecosystem.
And an ecosystem that big, well, it's bound to catch the attention of security researchers. And back in 2019, a research paper pretty much blew the lid off how all this convenience could actually be turned against you. So the moment you open that little sharing menu on your phone doesn't just sit there quietly waiting. Oh no, it immediately starts broadcasting information, shouting into the void, looking for other AirDrop devices. And right there, that's where the trouble begins. You see, the first piece of info your device shouts out is its own name, its host name. And as the researchers found, over 75% of the time, that name includes the user's real first name, like John's iPhone. It's the default setting, and, whoever bothers to change that. But honestly, it gets so much worse. That same broadcast also leaks your device's permanent Wi-Fi MAC address. That's a unique ID for your specific piece of hardware. This totally defeats MAC randomization, a privacy feature that's supposed to hide that very ID. It also gives away your exact OS version and even the name of the Wi-Fi network you're currently on. For an attacker, this is an absolute goldmine for tracking you or finding a vulnerability to exploit. So the crucial thing to understand here is that this isn't just about someone passively spying on you. An attacker sitting right there in the same coffee shop can use all this leaked info to set up a fake device that looks exactly like your friend. This lets them launch what's called a man-in-the-middle attack and literally intercept the files you're trying to send. Okay, let's play a little game. Imagine you're about to AirDrop a photo to your friend John. You look at your screen. Could you confidently spot an imposter? Okay, so on the left, you've got the real John. You don't have a photo for him in your contacts, so it just shows his initials. On the right is an attacker who has faked John's name. They look pretty much identical, don't they? The difference is so subtle, it's almost impossible to spot. And this really highlights the design flaw. A real contact shows initials. An unauthenticated connection, like from an attacker, shows that generic gray silhouette. But when the name is the same, our brains just gloss right over that tiny detail. Most of us would just see the name John, tap, and send. And the consequences of that simple tap? They're pretty severe. The researchers put it plainly. This attack effectively allows for planting malicious files. So that funny picture you think you're sending to your friend, it could be replaced mid-air with malware, which then gets delivered right to their device instead. Yeah, scary stuff. But the story doesn't end there, which is the good news. In 2021, another team of researchers came up with this really brilliant cryptographic solution to fix all of these problems. They called it PrivateDrop.
They started by asking this really fundamental question. How can your phone and your friend's phone figure out that you know each other without either of you having to show your entire private contact list to the other person? It's a classic privacy puzzle.
The answer, it turns out, lies in a really cool technique called private set intersection, or PSI. Basically, it's a super clever way for two people to find out what they have in common without revealing anything else. It's kind of like being able to ask, hey, do we both know Alex? Without ever having to show each other your full phone books. So here's how PrivateDrop uses it.
First, both phones take their contact lists and completely scramble them using cryptography. Then, they exchange only these scrambled, totally unreadable versions of their lists. And finally, through some really clever math, they can find a match, the person you both know, without ever having to unscramble or reveal a single other contact on either list. It's brilliant.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds great in theory, but all that complex cryptographic work, it has to be slow, right? It would completely ruin that seamless, magical experience if you had to wait 10 seconds just for your friend's name to pop up.
And here's the punchline. The researchers actually built and tested it on iOS and macOS. And the entire private authentication process, even if you have a massive address book, takes less than 1 second. It is so fast, you would never even notice all that cryptographic magic happening in the background.
So let's just zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. What does this whole journey really tell us about the tech we use every single day? Well, the story of AirDrop is just a perfect example of this constant cat-and-mouse game in technology. A feature gets launched way back in 2011, all about convenience. Years later in 2019, researchers find the hidden risks. And then in 2021, the community comes back with an elegant, practical solution.
So what's the takeaway for you? Well, first, that amazing convenience often comes with hidden trade-offs for your security and privacy. Second, that this cutting-edge academic research isn't just theoretical. It creates real, practical fixes. And ultimately, our digital safety really depends on this ongoing cycle of people scrutinizing our tech and finding better ways to protect us. Which really just leaves us with one last thought. In the design of the technology you use every single day, when the goals of absolute convenience and rock-solid security clash, which one do you think usually wins out? It's definitely something worth thinking about the next time you go to tap that share button.